She canned me on the spot, so I just grinned and said, "Sweet. Now how are you going to pay rent to the guy you just fired, seeing as I own every square foot under these hotels?" Brandon Kessler counted life in mechanical noises, the thunk of a compressor kicking on the shiver of an air curtain above a lobby door, the slow, polite sigh of a guest room lock when the green light blinked. Yes. These sounds made a language more honest than most people he knew. He breathed that language first on a November evening in the housekeeping closet of the Burlington Inn. His mother, Dolores, had been changing pillow shams in 207 when contractions doubled her over. The head housekeeper wiped her. Hands on an apron laid towels on the tile while Dolores panted. Half an hour later, Brandon slid into the world with only the choking perfume of lemon polish for anesthesia. He cried once, then fell quiet as if testing the acoustics. The maintenance man cut the cord with wire. Snips sterilized in bourbon, and the night auditor logged the berth in the duty log because every notable event belonged in the log. That entry remained taped to the back of the office door until the hotel changed brands 15. Years later, childhood was a backstage pass. Brandon chased the rattle of room service carts more eagerly than ice cream trucks. He memorized the beep patterns of Siemens fire panels, could tell which smoke detector had low battery by tone alone. School came second. He finished homework, balanced on laundry dryers, loose leaf, fluttering in the heat waves. Teachers described him as courteous, distant. His report cards read like weather bulletins. Principally fair, occasional brilliance, brief showers of silence. Danielle, 4 years younger, arrived by scheduled C-section under fluorescent lights at a private hospital. Everyone called her the upgrade where Brandon had been linen cart improv. Danielle got a full nursery and a personalized onesie. She grew into spotlight habits. Applause hit her like caffeine. She performed at breakfast tables, narrating cereal choices. Brandon watched her learn how to shape a room's temperature without touching the thermostat. At 12, Brandon hacked a broken vending machine so it returned correct change. The GM paid him in Snickers bars. At 14, he traced a sewer smell to a cracked vent stack, saved thousands in potential refunds. At 15, he spent Friday nights on the roof reading pressure gauges while Danielle hosted pool parties 2 floors below. The siblings seldom fought because they occupied different gravity fields, but their orbits occasionally brushed. The first real collision happened during their father's annual budget summit, a ritual held. In the Burlington ballroom, chairs stacked in crescents of concentration, Brandon presented maintenance forecasts, line items highlighted in yellow. Danielle presented a vision deck set to soft jazz aping the boutique chains in Miami. Their father, Joseph, applauded both, but the investors only asked for the jazz playlist. In college, Brandon commuted 58 miles each way, sunrise glinting off Lake Champlain like shattered mirrors. He studied facilities engineering in a classroom that smelled of dry erase markers. Nights he returned to grind rust off boiler tubes, steamed rice in the break room microwave, and fell asleep on employee cots. He missed formals, missed spring break, missed learning. That other young men sometimes failed on purpose just to see what it felt like. Danielle attended Cornell, schmoozed in linen suits, learned the power of pause between talking points. She mailed home glossy pamphlets on brand storytelling. Joseph pinned them beside Brandon's grease-smudged schematics. Both children left fingerprints on the master plan, but Danielle's were visible. Brandon's dissolved into the paper. At 27, Brandon became regional operations coordinator, a title long enough to wrap around his pride twice. The promotion meant a company Nokia and a travel budget and the right to override any GM if safety demanded. He spent 5 years inside service elevators chewing stale breath mints, reading manuals in parking lots at dawn. He kept a field notebook lined with part numbers, phone extensions, security, keypad codes. He could diagnose an ice machine by taste of the cubes. Copper lines added a metallic tang. Plastic lines tasted like garden hose. Romance never fit the schedule. Carrie from HR tried. She gifted him cologne, subtle, citrus. He wore it twice before realizing machinery disliked unfamiliar scents. Page from accounting lasted longer. She loved his stories about pipe chases, hated that he answered radio calls mid-kiss. They broke over a malfunctioning laundry press. Page said the machine mattered more. He did not argue. It was true. Machines served guests. Guests paid staff. Staff needed braces, mortgages, dignity. The equation hurt but balanced. He archived her pain carefully like outdated wiring diagrams labeled might need. Someday years blurred. Danielle, returning from Cornell with algorithms for social media influencers, convinced Joseph to cover reception desks in Instagram green paint. Brandon studied paint spec sheets, found one brand durable enough for suitcase. Impacts adjusted budgets accordingly. He argued once when Danielle proposed fragrance marketing. Insert signature scent diffusers in every corridor. Brandon countered with asthma statistics. They compromised vanilla in lobbies, unscented on guest floors. Danielle later claimed credit for the data-driven approach. Brandon shrugged. Data were for sharing, not owning. Joseph aged stress calcified in his joints. Meetings tired him. He began grooming Danielle for stage presence, Brandon for backstage persistence. The system worked until Danielle discovered speed. Ambition tastes like sugar on the tongue, dissolves fast, demands more. October Boston air knife thin. Brandon parked outside the new headquarters, a tower of mirrored swagger. He noted the fresh glue tang. Assigned ducts hadn't fully flushed VOCs, danger for staff with sensitive lungs. HR waited at security, a cardboard box already folded. Brandon logged detail position of hands, trembling angle of fluorescent reflection on floor. This is happening, he told himself, like reading a sensor output. No alarm until pattern repeats. Upstairs, blinds half closed. Sunlight striped Danielle like barcode. She spoke in clipped accelerator buzz. Brand hospitality is experience, not beds, vision, synergy, lifestyle, partnerships. She unveiled 6-month severance benefits. Vesting because family Brandon signed not out of surrender but because hydraulics need controlled release. Argue here and damage splatters. He pocketed his flashlight brass key grandfather photo. His legacy fit in a single shoebox. Danielle's smile flickered when he asked about Westbrook timeline. My consultant, she snapped, handled properties twice that size. He nodded, meaning recorded, lobby goodbyes, silent. Outside windgum wrapper, skating across. Pavement carried box like organ transplant delicately. Seatbelt clicked around cardboard, not flesh. He drove north past state lines into old country rain. Stitched windshield with Morse code. Burlington lights welcomed him. Syrup sweet night manager. Hugged too tight, believed easy lie. Vacation, straightening priorities. Brandon inhaled lobby scent, maple smoke nostalgia. Allowed 5 seconds of morning, then saw the tripod aluminum shining in parking lot. Casco Development Group. Not ours, he traced. Sightlines, property boundaries, clause 12B landmine buried in paperwork. Danielle never read. Satisfaction flared. Brief bright, then banked to coal heat. He phoned Priya forensic accountant. She threaded filings. Manhattan WeWork, LLC Kessler Vision. Danielle Morgan Kessler Boutique. Luxury coastal. Brandon's laugh startled trucker at rest stop. Changing routes, he said to stranger, actually choosing them. Morning gray coffee, cold he drafted. Lease renewals, market rate plus escalations, Courier Friday. 905 synced to quarterly release. Each clause, bulletproof. Triple-checked, signature line, bold, Courier confirmed. Pickup, Brandon closed laptop. Listened to refrigerator cycle. He did nothing else. The stillness felt illegal. Dream. He walked endless. Hall's lights soft. No rattles. Doors opened on silence. Danielle's heels tapped ahead. Steady tempo. Corridor stretched accordion style, each step longer. He never caught up. Woke tasting ozone change. Coming Friday, 8:59. Brandon idled across from HQ wipers metronome courier inside 30 seconds till impact 0900. Skyreach press release optimism ribboned across finance feeds 0901. Analyst tweet bullish 0903. Courier sets. Thick envelopes on mahogany. Danielle leans mid-speech phone buzzes 0904. Investor chat rooms hum 0905. Envelope sliced rents roar out numbers like turbine exhaust. Danielle's breath stalls, equity traders frown. 0906, Bloomberg flashes. Skyreach dips 2 points. 0907, HR Slack thread. Lights red. 0908, lobby. Turnstile stall under. Badge errors. Nobody cleared to override. Brandon sees Danielle's silhouette pound glass pane. Mouth shapes his name. Brandon. Her lipstick leaves comet smear on glass. He scribbles on windshield fog. House rules. Wipes away drives off traffic lights. Flipping green as if choreographed. Westbrook bound, he calls Julian Hayes. Without preamble. How soon can you reach Maine? He asks. Building ready to change hands. Staff keep badges. That is the price. Julian laughs like champagne. Uncorking, wheels up noon. Brandon grips wheel one-handed, mile markers tumble domino cascade. The quiet man with the flashlight had tipped the first tile. Now he listened for the crash tide that follows, and the language of machines began to sound like applause. Brandon crossed. The Piscataqua Bridge at dawn fog draped over the water like unrolled gauze. The Westbrook Hotel waited 30 miles ahead, a shape he knew by heart. Long ago, he had overseen the gut rehab room by room, sanding banisters himself after contractors clocked. Out, he could still smell the polyurethane when he closed his eyes. That morning, the air carried brine and wet pine and something metallic like tension. Miguel, head of maintenance, met him behind the loading dock. They spoke in near whispers. Even the dumpsters seemed to eavesdrop. Consultant has them swapping linen vendors. Miguel said claims thread count is wasted on millennials. The new sheets pill after one wash. Guests complain of itching. Brandon nodded, noting the way Miguel's shoulders slumped. Staff morale is graphite rubbed too hard and you get dust. They toured the property service corridors, smelled of cut drywall. The renovation timeline had compressed again. Ceilings open to show tangled guts of ducks. Firewatch logs missing initials, the consultant, a man named Rawlings, with teeth as bright as lobby marble. Strode over, introduced himself in one breath, bragged about a Vegas turnaround in the next. Brandon shook his hand, felt the clammy rush of surface confidence. Rawlings delivered a speech, synergy, asset maximization, brand pyramid. Miguel rolled his eyes behind Rawlings' back. Brandon filed the body language away like a maintenance ticket. Emails pinged nonstop on Brandon's phone. Patterns emerged, raw complaints direct from guests, bypassing the usual filter. After Danielle's shakeup, managers feared forwarding bad news, so guests reached out to him directly. Brandon answered each one overnight, calm tone, apology, voucher, promise. He was unofficial custodian of dignity, now unpaid, but necessary. Priya sent a midday text. Found something weird in Westbrook. Capex Rawlings issued PO for luxury Italian tiles, but receiving log shows generic porcelain difference. 60,000 unaccounted follow the grout. She joked Brandon did more than joke. He opened a spreadsheet, started mapping vendor patterns like leak paths. He smelled embezzlement as surely as he smelled mildew beneath a shower pan. Afternoon sunlight sliced through lobby skylight, revealing dust motes swirling like tense snow. Renovation should have installed temporary negative air machines to pull debris away. Rawlings skipped that cost savings. He bragged Yelp reviews, began mentioning cough dust eyes itching. Brandon tasted copper in his mouth, hazard signs invisible, but loud to him. He snapped photos, time-stamped, geotagged. He scheduled a 3 p.m. coffee with Nora, the front office manager. 8 minutes in, she broke into tears. Our repeat, couples cancel birthdays. Now she said they used to climb the lighthouse trail because we printed them maps. Rawlings replaced maps with QR codes reception. Wi-Fi fails half the time. They feel unwelcome. Brandon handed her a clean bar towel for tissues. She laughed through tears, instinctively folded it. Hotel corner's muscle memory of service. She asked quietly, "Is Danielle really going to sell us?" He stared at cappuccino foam swirling stormy and did not answer. At dusk, he drove south again, headlights carving tunnels through mist. He dialed Julian Hayes of Commonwealth on speaker laid, out evidence of cash skimming safety violations, brand erosion. Julian listened, no interruptions. When Brandon finished, there was a soft whistle. "Sounds like a burning building we can buy cheap," Julian said. Dry humor, masking calculation. Brandon countered. Staff retention clause. No layoffs for 2 years. Heritage suites untouched. Julian agreed quickly. Deal too sweet to haggle. Night settled. He parked at a rest stop, closed eyes, but mind projected numbers across eyelids. Occupancy, ADR, insurance premiums. Risk matrices. Lines intersected, forming a noose around Danielle's projections. He wondered if she felt pressure, yet if her sleep smelled like solvent, too. Next morning, Skyreach released glossy videos celebrating innovation. Danielle front and center. Drone shots, marble desks, pineapple, welcome drinks. Brandon watched steam rising off his mug. A line in the video bragged, "Westbrook renovation ahead of schedule." He paused, rewound. Yes, ahead of schedule. A lie. Rawlings still demoing third floor. Brandon. Forwarded clip to Priya, tagged note to SECQ. By Wednesday, investor whispers had grown into emails. Daniela scheduled internal webinar to soothe partners. Brandon was not invited, but Vincent Ross forwarded the link municipal bond investors were on. Call Brandon. Listened muted while Danielle painted rainbows. Rawlings appeared. Bragged of lean construction, safety record impeccable. He said same moment a push notification hit Brandon's phone. Local news. Portland 2. Workers hospitalized minor. Electrical fire at Westbrook. Brandon's screenshot stamped the time 2 minutes after Rawlings' claim he forwarded to Vincent caption, "Truth wants airtime." Thursday. Brandon walked Burlington property. Old roots of the chain. The lobby fireplace cracked with real logs, not gas. Guests loved that smell. Danielle once called it outdated nostalgia. Brandon now slid into a wingback chair near the fire, closed eyes. Rumbling flu reminded him of childhood midnight boiler checks father used to rest his palm on. Brandon's hair say, "Kiddo, you hear the system breathe. Keep it steady, people will sleep safe." Brandon wondered if father remembered those nights. Maybe father forgot how systems breathe. He opened laptop, finished draft of comprehensive whistleblower, package names redacted to protect staff, photos, invoices, missing cost lines, spreadsheet of asbestos air readings. Brenda in housekeeping had asthma. Her rescue inhaler use tripled since drywall dust started. She kept records, date, dose, wheeze, severity. Brandon asked permission to include. She said yes if it helps save jobs. Friday dawned copper sky. Courier delivered lease renewals last week. Shockwave still rippled. Danielle silent publicly, privately. She issued Tempest emails. Firebrand will kill. Company HR leaks told Brandon she screamed at finance team, demanded renegotiation. Finance showed her market surveys proved rates reasonable. She threatened lawsuit. They reminded her BK. Holdings had watertight contracts. She threw paperweight at glass wall according to rumors Saturday evening wedding reception, ballroom Westbrook chandeliers lit like star clusters. DJ Bass shook crown molding. At 9:47 p.m., a copper supply line weakened by unpermitted wall cuts soldered by day laborers sweated through Rawlings. Cost-saving plan burst. Steam 240 degrees Celsius of roared between studs, popped them like knuckles. Fire alarms lagged sensors dusty from poor cover protocol. Sprinklers failed on half the floor. Valve left closed after pressure test. Panic bloom. Videos captured guests in tuxes wading ankle-deep through sprinklers, water, mud, drywall, mush, bride crying mascara, black rivers. Someone yelled, "Get the kids out." Rawlings nowhere. Scene. Miguel sprinted with. Wrench reopened, valve heads gushed full pressure. 20 seconds too late, cell phones filmed everything. Hashtag dark water wedding hit. TikTok by 10:30 p.m. views. Rocketed fireplace algorithm turned tragedy into trend. Montage, bride screaming cut to. Danielle in promo video saying impeccable safety, cut to sprinklers raining down. DJ still mixing, people added dark soundtrack violins. Midnight same night, news vans parked outside. Neon strobes painted hotel face sickly purple. Danielle's phone battery died under swarm of calls. Father tried landline. No answer, investor group chat. Exploded. Bloomberg prepped pre-market piece title, Nightmare at Niche Chain. Sent intern to get tearful bride. Quote insurance adjuster whispered catastrophic. Brandon sat at. Kitchen table lights off, just fridge hum. He clicked share on one video, forwarded to Julian caption. Clock strikes Sunday morning, Danielle appeared on local TV, hair damp voice. Tight blamed freak mechanical failure, pledged full refunds. Guest behind her shouted, "You fired the only guy who knew the pipes." Danielle paled clip went viral again. Louder, Brands bleeds. When trust punctured Brandon, watch silent, search sister's face for sister, not president found none. Miguel texted, Rawlings, resigned, hopped, red-eye to Vegas, left tools behind. Danielle wants me to take acting facilities. Lead with half resources told her no. Unless Brandon returns. She said over my dead body. Miguel replied. Soon maybe Priya, confirmed Rawlings. Italian tile PO routed money too. Shell company traced to his cousin Daniela had signed disbursement. Without due diligence, audit risk, now personal liability. Vincent called Brandon board. Rumbling emergency session. Danielle wants immediate capital raise to cover lawsuit exposure. Investors skittish. Would accept leadership change if stability promised. Vincent asked, will you step in? Brandon stared at ceiling crack, danced across plaster like fault line. He answered, give me 48 hours, need to shore the foundation first. He booked flight. Oldest Boeing rattling windows. He liked that noise. Honest metal fatigue reminding everyone to pay attention. Seatbelt sign dinged. He pulled notebook, wrote checklist. Hire independent structural engineer. Assess all properties. Negotiate. Bridge financing through Commonwealth freeze. Non-essential capex. Bring back heritage marketing, not gimmicks. Draft letter to employees. Promise transparency. Outline apprenticeship program with community college. Could have slept but scribbled until pen ran dry. He capped it, twisted flashlight tail cap, counted the batteries. 3 full energy stored like resolve. Plane descended over Boston lights, scattered gems. Brandon imagined them as indicator LEDs, some green, some flickered red. He intended to turn as many green as possible before the system failed entirely. The ground rose, the wheels kissed. Runway, small shudder. He exhaled, counted the steady thrum of reverse thrust. Familiar language saying, welcome back, fix what is broken before the building forgets how to breathe. Vincent Ross stood by the 12th floor window of Dorsey and Shaw's conference center and watched rain crawl down the glass like clear snakes. He had called this emergency board session, but even he could feel the floor vibrating with something larger than procedure. Skyreach shares had opened the morning. Down 11%, reporters were camped in reception, and the smell of elevator grease seemed stronger than usual. An omen of machinery overheated. Brandon arrived with Patricia, his lawyer Julian Hayes. 3 steps behind, both men wore plain coats, their umbrellas still dripping. They shook hands with a no small talk. Brandon's eyes swept ceiling vents, sprinkler heads, duct boots. Typical, he always mapped exits, orientation, before sitting. At the far end, Danielle paced, phone-to-ear hair pulled so tight it looked painful. Father sat near her, hands folded on a slim cane. He watched the door like he expected a ghost. Pegboard behind him displayed the old Skyreach logo, gold gull in upward flight. The gull now looked lost in storm sky, quorum established. Vincent announced, his voice steadier than his stomach felt. Danielle launched into opening remarks. Before she cleared the third sentence, Patricia slid thick binders to each, directorates of evidence-numbered tabs. Danielle froze. Who authorized this? Her voice curdled. Vincent nodded toward Brandon, who said nothing. Patricia asked to be recognized. She walked the table through permits showing Kessler Vision LLC funneling, investor funds to off-book projects, brand mock-ups, contract bids for construction on land adjacent to Skyreach flagships. Danielle's name sat on every signature line like bright lipstick on stolen glass. Directors flipped pages, wrists stiff. Some murmured curses, a few looked to Father. He kept gaze on Danielle. She tried deflection. It is common for executives to explore ventures, but Kessler Vision is a strategic consultancy benefiting Skyreach. Patricia clicked a projector. Her slide glowed red. Bullet line 3. Leveraging existing Skyreach customer base for immediate ramp. She read aloud quietly, letting the words peel paint. Danielle tried again. Those slides are drafts, nothing filed. Patricia advanced to county permits already approved for hotel groundwork. Danielle's jaw flexed. She offered new angle. My brother orchestrated this smear to depress valuation so he could seize assets. Brandon leaned forward, voice low. Nothing here came from me. These are public filings you banked on nobody. Reading, Joseph finally spoke. Danielle, did you conceal these permits? She looked at her father, and for first time Brandon saw a flare of something like shame. She opened mouth twice. No sound emerged. She settled on. You never backed my ideas, your old ways. Dragged us down. Joseph flinched as if struck. Boardroom went still. Patricia outlined Rawlings. Fraud, property, damage, lawsuit, risk, OSHA citations, staff depositions ready. Brenda's inhaler logs. Brenda sitting quietly behind gallery row, raised hand to wave. Proof. Danielle's face drained color. Investors on video feed whispered among themselves. Some screens went dark, probably switching to council calls. Fire alarm shrieked, every light strobing red. Building PA crackled. This is not a drill. Please proceed to nearest exit. People lurched. Danielle shot glare at Brandon as if he yanked wires. Brandon lifted hands, not me. The alarm, however, did not echo. Normal cadence. Patricia noted. Strobe frequency off by half. She understood Brandon already moving to hallway. He knelt by alarm panel, saw zone 12. Mechanical room flagged. He punched code 1212. Door popped open inside, small smoke serpent coiled from elevator motor. Dangling fuse still sparking, someone had jammed foil into breaker, sloppy sabotage security radios. Barked unknown technicians seen earlier. The sabotage stalled elevators, trapping press corps between floors. Panic tweets erupted. Phone screens flashed. Firemen arrived, 2-minute standby near boardroom wet. Boots squeaked. Danielle's vision presentation served now as backing light for swirling smoke. While sprinklers hissed, investors on video regained feed to scene of real crisis, not hypothetical. They witnessed Brandon isolate breaker, tap motor housing with back of knuckle check for charge, then reset. Feed in safe order. Fire chief asked, "Are you facility head?" Brandon answered. Former but still fluent Director Lutz, watching from doorway, muttered, "That man runs on instincts we need." Simple heroism broadcast live via investor cams diffused through. Financial Twitter clip titled, "Fired Ops Guy Saves Board." Uploaded forthwith, stock crawled upward. 1%. Danielle stared at screen where her promo video earlier bragged of impeccable safety. now replaced by feet of her brother with soot stripe, across cheek crowding under strobe light like firefighter. She slumped into chair smoke. Alarm, beep still chirped, lost heartbeat, evacuation all clear. 20 minutes later, conference reconvened. Smell of damp carpet. Danielle looked smaller, hair frayed. Fire alarm triggered by sabotage board security. Confirmed perpetrator unknown, but access badge traced to Rawlings interim consultant police already in lobby. Rawlings caught at airport bag stuffed with company cash, advance and Italian tile kickback, receipt. Cameras loved him in cuffs. Vincent stood path clear. He motioned to vote. Proposal 1, remove Danielle Morgan Kessler as president and CEO for cause. Proposal 2, appoint interim crisis committee chaired by independent director Lutz and offer. Brandon Kessler role of chief recovery officer with full operational authority waited for 12 months. Danielle protested, do not let traitor seize throne. Board counsel cautioned. She may not vote due to conflict. Hands raised, 11 for removal 0. Against Danielle's seat. Empty. She inhaled maybe to scream, but only exhaled. Cracked sigh. Security escorted her gently, not cuffed yet. Father watched silent. Tear cut down cheek. Brandon declined CRO title. He proposed immediate sale of 3 flagship buildings to Commonwealth hotels with lease safeguards, job protection scholarship fund. Board approved 9-1 holdout was Joseph. He asked meeting recess, then spoke alone with children in side hall fluorescent flicker. Danielle refused eye contact. Brandon said softly, Dad, you taught me to listen to systems. This one screamed. Danielle shook, head turned, walked into elevator, still rubbing wrists as if expecting cuffs. Joseph whispered, I never meant this. Brandon sighed. I know, let's finish repairs. News cycle. Exploded board ousts. Visionary CEO replaces with maintenance man became headline Bloomberg. Corrected by noon, maintenance man owns land leads. Rescue Catherine Lee columnist wrote rare piece praising blue-collar competence. Stock rallied 8%, by close better than before. Disaster Danielle's margin loan covenants triggered. Bank demanded liquidation. She faced personal ruin till Brandon offered private purchase at fair price, plus assumption of debt condition. She signed over Kessler Vision IP and record apology to staff. She asked, why help me? He said, because linen closets make strange nurseries. She did not laugh but signed voice shaky in video, but she said, I forgot. Service is soul of hotel. I am sorry to every colleague I failed. Clip shared. Internally applause, emoji cascade. Weeks followed. Brandon waded through assessment reports, replaced faulty valves, reintroduced real maps at front desk, launched apprenticeship with community college. He brought Nora to planning team, Miguel promoted to regional chief of engineering Commonwealth side. Brenda chaired new safety committee. Joseph retired fully. Joined urban garden charity. Brandon visited Sundays, taught him how AppTrack HVAC efficiency on greenhouse fans. They talked little about Danielle. She had moved to Tucson lecturing about crisis branding. Sometimes she sent postcards, desert sunsets, no text, only color. Brandon pinned them on corkboard beside duct schematics. Reminder, heat can be beautiful if you respect its boundaries. Quarter closed. Revenue up, 15 lawsuits settled, insurance-covered damages thanks to documentation. Spike Night video featuring Brandon used in training seminars titled Silent Competence versus Empty Confidence. OSHA borrowed clip for Awareness Week. He declined. Speaking fees donated to apprenticeship fund. One night alone on Westbrook roof, he listened to condensers purr. Steady wind off bay tasted like salt and renewal. He hummed small tune from childhood, the lullaby of boiler rooms below, lobby fireplace, crackled reel logs again. Guests toasted marshmallows. Danielle once called that outdated. Now marketing brochure called it heritage warmth. Systems breathe, he whispered. Good night. 1 year slipped past like guest receipts through a thermal printer, and Brandon Kessler no longer woke at 5:30 by obligation. He woke because the ocean under his window changed tone at that hour, gulls passing low. He lived now in a modest apartment above the service lane behind the harbor view, formerly Westbrook. He could afford glass towers, but he preferred to hear dumpsters rattle at dawn. Reminded him buildings eat and digest like anybody. His title director of foundations sounded vague on purpose. His duties stretched from supplier negotiations to overseeing the apprenticeship school run in the renovated carriage house beside Burlington Inn. 29 apprentices rotated through kitchen's front desk carpentry. They earned union scale and community college credit. Many carried student debt like wet coats. Brandon made sure every paycheck felt like stepping out of rain. Commonwealth loved the PR investors, loved the 30% lift in review scores. Julian Hayes texted quarterly charts with celebratory emojis. Brandon replied with photos of repaired steam traps or apprentices in cap and gown. The joke became their currency graphs for gaskets. Joseph Kessler reached 71. He gardened tomatoes on a rooftop plot of a nonprofit greenhouse where Brandon installed temperature sensors. Watched Father Master tablet app. Last harvest, Joseph shipped crates of sauce jars to staff pantry. Labels read Old Ways, brand red gull logo. People lined up early. Danielle lived in Tucson, taught crisis branding at a private college, wore linen every day. Posted desert sunrise pictures. No captions. Brandon liked them with discreet thumbs, no comment. They spoke once a month, civility. Awkward but intact. She mailed royalty check each quarter. Her part of book deal, hot mess. Hospitality sold okay. She credited Brandon. In acknowledgments, one line. For keeping the boiler running. Even when I ignored the heat. April New England legislature session brought forgotten clause from 1972. Deed Burlington City Council. Dusted off stewardship provisions section 8. Property must maintain active Kessler family operational oversight or lease reverts to city at nominal fee. Activist group Heritage tomorrow claimed sale to out-of-state corporation violated spirit of clause. They demanded council invoke reversion, Commonwealth. Lawyers uneasy. Julian called Brandon midnight phone hiss. Heritage want to turn into museum. They will argue you are mascot, not manager. City votes in 6 weeks. Brandon exhaled slow language of trouble. He drove to Burlington pre-dawn parking lot. Smelled like thawing mud. Apprentices painting picnic tables. Waved Brandon spent day tracing original blueprints, measuring foundation settlement, checking accessible ramp slope. He drafted binder proving ongoing Kessler oversight programs, scholarships. He requested slot on council docket prepared speech. Simple spare offered tours of apprentice workshops, offered economic impact. Sheet hospitality math, people not numbers. He mailed Danielle copy. She replied, need me there. He answered your call. 3 weeks later, council chambers packed local press students, activists, tourists queued outside. Brandon wore same brown shoes from his firing day, comfortable. Danielle arrived late, desert tan faded. She sat behind room edge, did not speak. Brandon presented slides, air-warm projector hum. He described laundry reclamation, water savings, apprenticeship, hiring local veterans. He passed around jar of Joseph's tomato sauce labeled Legacy in glass. Council listened, but mood tense, Heritage. Tomorrow, Speaker Young. Lawyer argued. Clause explicit. Oversight means management, not symbolic. She quoted minutes from 1974 meeting where grandfather said, family hands will steer this ship as long as there is sea. She rested, case applause, scattered, council chair. Set vote for. Next week demanded further evidence of operational role. That night, Brandon paced carriage house, smelled pine sawdust. He worried hedge funds more predictable than city pride. He called Julian contingency, plan B shift, head office north, maybe scrap in. Rename, but he hated fracture root Heritage. At 4:16 a.m., storm sirens wailed. Lake Champlain stirred under black sky. April nor'easter collided with warm front line of purple radar bruises. Wind ripped banners off lampposts. Harborview lost grid. Power generators kicked liver strong. In Burlington, transformers popped lightning screaming. The inn stood on hill, but storm surge from lake-sloshed streets. Water-found boiler room vents gurgled inside. Electrical panels at risk, apprentices sleeping in. Dorm above carriage house jolted awake to Brandon pounding hallway bell. Drill they practiced twice monthly, now real. He assigned roles. Milo kill main breaker, Joy seal vent flaps, Carlos fetch sandbags. From hill they watched city grid flicker out. Thunder cracked long like giant sheet metal. At 5:02, power utility map. Dark entire county council emergency ops offline. Heritage Museum. Basement flooded sirens mixed with church bells. Brandon radioed Harborview. Confirmed their diesel steady he. Coordinated both sites alternating channels. Rain blew sideways, toolboxes skittered. He knelt in boiler room, ankle-deep water apprentices formed bucket line, laughter, nervous adrenaline. They sealed vents, pumped down water, fired boiler on diesel O. Furnace without heat pipes would freeze explode. Through hatch he glimpsed dawn watery pink. At 6:17, hospital across town phoned in generator failed maternity ward. Dark Brandon dispatched Harborview electrician with spare regulator part 30-minute. Trek through debris. Apprentice Lou drove snowplow borrowed from CityWorks. Cleared route city manager riding shotgun saw operation firsthand. He asked Brandon, "Are you contractor?" Brandon shouted back, "Family owner, staff family too." Farther got lost in wind by 9:00. Storm eye lifted, leaving branches strewn sirens subsided. City livestream damage update using in Wi-Fi council chair present. Soaked, thanks staff. Only building with hot coffee, Burlington Inn. She saw apprentices distributing blankets. A voice cracked. Live feed captured her saying, "Stewardship looks like this camera," panned to Brandon, mud on cheeks, hair plastered. Students behind him cheering. She announced emergency hearing tonight, vote to amend clause, ensure partnership stand skip, week delay. Evening hearing, half-chamber candlelit generators hum. Council voted 7-0 family oversight satisfied by apprenticeship program. Brandon clasped hands calmly, Danielle in gallery. Exhaled, audible, father on. Video call smiled, tomato plants behind. Him, next day. State paper, front page image. Brandon knee-deep water hauling hose. Headline, bloodlines. Hold line article. Praised vocational readiness. Contrasted with earlier Skyreach debacle. Social feeds. Hailed apprentices. Hashtag Brandskids. Trended. Production companies called for docu-series. Brandon ignored. Went back to repairing parking lot. Drains storm gouged. Julian visited week later, coffee at inn porch. He recited revenue uptick post-storm guests admired resilience. Insurance premium. Maybe. Drop this in anchor. He said, "I almost lost it." Brandon replied, "Not while I breathe." Danielle stayed extra days, spoke to apprentices about brand recovery. Ironically, she listened more than talked. She and Brandon walked lakeside. She admitted jealousy fueled her fall. He admitted pride hid his pain. They laughed, small, talked about desert dryness. She asked permission to visit father. He nodded. Offered ride. In Boston, Joseph hugged both children. Tears unnecessary. They cooked pasta with garden sauce, At kitchen counter, father proposed trust fund, seeded by hostelry profits to endow apprenticeship forever. Family agreed, signed napkin for starter legal. Later summer rolled, Brandon expanded program to Portland, Providence, purchased vacant warehouse, turned into Trades Academy. Named it Dolores House, after mother Danielle donated startup capital anonymous, but Brandon knew he mailed her flashlight keyring replica. Someone from maintenance shop built. She texted picture loop on her lecture bag. Fiscal, year-end Commonwealth Northeast portfolio up 23% board. Awarded Brandon option shares, he gifted half to scholarship fund. He kept flashlight schedule busy but heart lighter. On anniversary of Storm Apprentice graduation filled. Burlington lawn lights strung between Maples band played swing. Joseph danced with Nora, crowd cheered. Brandon sat on stone wall watching boilers puff breath from vents like contented beasts. Danielle joined, handed him bottle root beer. He tapped glass. To hers, to foundations. She added, and to rooms that breathe. They clinked, drank stars above blinking green. Indicator lights of sky system stable for now.